I want to welcome everybody, and I cannot begin to express to you the joy that I feel being here with you this morning and looking out into the room full of people. After the last 2 years, we have a lot of things to celebrate this morning, not the least of which is our ability to be here together in person to celebrate the things that we'll talk about today. So, welcome. We're very excited. Today we'll be going through all of the major milestones in the not all, but many of the major milestones in the organization for our folks over the last 2 years. As you're probably well aware, we were not able to do this celebration last year because of the pandemic. So we'll spend a couple hours together this morning doing just that, and head into this year with hope and anticipation for a great year and some kind of return to normalcy with any luck at all. Before we get into our program, or to kick off our program rather, I'd like to invite our city manager, John Amundsen, to come up and say a couple of words of welcome for all of you this morning. So please help me welcome John Amundsen.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. It's, like Tom said, it's exciting to be in person, exciting to be with the fire department today. As Tom was briefing me for the event today, he mentioned that today is not only a celebration of those who retired over the last couple of years, and we weren't able to properly honor them given the pandemic, but it's also an opportunity to celebrate those who've onboarded with the Richland Fire Department and are the new faces, the young blood of this organization. And Tom has mentioned on several occasions, as well as other members of the leadership within fire, how excited they are to see these young firefighters and the enthusiasm and the excitement that they bring to the job every day. And then we also get to celebrate those who've been promoted. And one of the things I think that the fire department does so well is grow their own leaders. And it's so exciting to see how you start out as a young firefighter and advance through the different ranks. And it's not an easy task. There's a lot with each of the promotional testing opportunities. I've been a part of those and been on different panels and seen all the different modules that you have to do. And so it's something definitely worth celebrating. As I was thinking about what I would say today, and I don't want to take a long time, but it made me think of one of my favorite speeches. This is a speech from Theodore Roosevelt that is commonly referred to as the man in the arena. It's also known as citizenship in a republic. And I'll just read a quick quote because I think it embodies what the firefighters do each and every day. It says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out the strong man's stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat." And I think that embodies what our firefighters do each and every day. And I thank you for your service and look forward to the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'll start this morning by saying again that we're going to look back over the last 2 years and celebrate some of the individual milestones from our members, or that our members have experienced and come together on. But as we look at each of those milestones and celebrate those this morning, I think it's important to recognize that not one of us among this amazing workforce that we have accomplishes anything in solitude or in a vacuum. And to begin with, I would like to formally recognize and have each and every one of you who are spouses, brothers or sisters, uncles, moms or dads, family members, neighbors, friends, relatives, anybody who is not in a uniform this morning, I'd like to have you stand up for a moment, please. The work that the uniformed people in this room do is critical to the success of our community, to the health and well-being of our community. The work that we do in fire and emergency services and public safety is work that nobody else can do in the community. And the primary reason that we not only can do that, but often the reason why we do that lies with all of you who are standing here in those roles who see our people miss the birthday parties and the family barbecues and come back to work in the middle of summer when we'd rather be home with you doing fun stuff, right? Coming back in to staff a brush truck or staff an ambulance because we're out of resources, because the community needs us at that moment. So to all of you who are standing here, who offer your support, encouragement, and buckling down at home to hold the fort down there so that our people can come in and serve the community in this very unique and necessary way, I want to express my personal thanks, and I'd like to invite all of us in uniform to express our thanks with a round of applause. Okay, we are now to the part that I think everybody has been anxiously awaiting, and we're going to start working on our badging ceremony, or badging portion of the ceremony today. We're going to begin with new hires, so if you are a new hire in 2020, we'd like to have you come up here. As that group moves to completion, we'll have the new hires for 2021 come up and do the same thing, stage up in the front corner here, and we'll call you out by name to do that pinning.
Eric Center, and you are justified to put it as deep as you want, as you. Matt Jubb, would you come forward? He's going to be pinned by former TO Captain Kevin Landon. Cody Keaton. Emily Nakora. That's the best I could do on your pronunciation. Emily's husband works for Kennewick Fire. Dalton Rentz, being pinned by his lovely bride. I will say something about Dalton when he came into Academy. His stepmother was city manager. His father was one of my best friends. We hired him at the same time, and I said, how could this go wrong? John Toyak. Oh, this ought to be fun. He says Al, it's okay. Chad Miller and his wife. All right, 21-1, Josh Inglesey. You can be as aggressive as you would like with the pin. Matt Baker. Henry Foster. Walter Greer. Walter joined us from Seattle Fire. If you ever want good stories, he may have some. And he appreciates the new culture that he's experiencing here at Richland. Travis Burke, come on down. We have 4 candidates that are in recruit school right now. Colton Roney, he's a 3rd-generation RFD, it might be the best generation. If you've worked at RFD, you'll know you got that joke. Jonathan Witt, Justin Carvito, and Jacob Croshaw, who has a brother that also works for us. And the ACO over there with them is Brian Bowe, like said earlier. What I want to share with you guys as a group, as a family, these 3 years, in less than 3 years, this recruits that you've seen today represent 27% of our operational workforce. And during that tenure, they have seen unprecedented change and increase in community growth. They had to go through the COVID challenges and service deliveries that were associated with that. We had a 20% increase in call volume, and we had change in societal norms that we haven't seen before. Here's the thing. We haven't had any additional complaints. We're just as efficient and just as effective as we've been before as they transitioned through. We feel that we are very strong as an organization collectively, not only operationally, but tight internally as a family, as a workforce. That says a lot about the existing people that have walked before them. It says a lot about our team and our structure that we have today. It tells a lot about the people that we're hiring in their family, unity behind them that support them to create that successful environment. We will continue to see a great rate of change, but these guys have laid a foundation. Actually, the generation before laid the foundation, and they're following their footsteps and doing quite well at it. I would applaud all of them and say thank you for what you've done for us in our community.
About 6 years ago, I was at the State Fire Chiefs Conference, and the keynote speaker for the event had, I think there was about 150 fire chiefs in the room, and the opening question of his keynote talk was the young generation. And he posed a series of questions to the group, and I'm paraphrasing because I've lost the exact details, but how many of you have a whole bunch of new people come into the organization? All kinds of hands go up. How many of you have a whole bunch of people coming into the organization that have no idea what they're doing? A whole bunch of hands go up. How many of you have a whole bunch of people, new people come into the organization that make you want to tear your hair out, lay it on the ground, light it on fire, and stomp it out? A whole bunch of hands go up in the room. How many of you don't even know what to do with the new generation coming into the workforce? A whole bunch of hands go up in the... How many of you have amazing people coming into your organization in the new generation? 2 hands go up. And I'm very proud to say mine was one of them. Because as you can see reflected in the group that you just had before you here, we have amazing people coming into this organization. And they are contributing to a workforce that is doing great things in this community and in the industry. So we're going to move to promotions next. And at the entry level to a certain extent, but more so when we get to talking about promotions, we start talking about the badge. And it's easy to start thinking about the badge as if that's the thing that we're after. I'm trying to get my badge, I'm trying to get my bugles, trying to get the gold badge. There's variations of that theme. And so sometimes the verbiage that we use points to the object rather than what the object represents. And we all know in the industry what the object represents is all of the things that we've been talking about today. It represents that selfless service to the community. It represents supporting one another in very, very difficult times. It represents collaboration. It represents leadership. It represents, I think, all of the things about our society that are great. And so when we go through the next part of the ceremony and we see these badges put onto the chest of the people receiving them, they're stepping into a role that requires even more than what we've described at the entry level. It requires them to step into the gap of getting everybody home safely at the end of the shift. It puts them in the role of difficult conversations and performance management and making sure that the service to our community is always number one. It puts them in the role of coach and mentor. It's a challenging but maybe the most rewarding role in the industry, and I would say among the greatest jobs on the planet still to this day. So as we celebrate these promotions, recognize what all of these folks are taking on, And I'd ask you to also recognize the amount of work that is put into not only preparing and competing for these positions, but delivering that work day after day, week after week, year after year, for many of our folks for decades of their career in these roles. So with that, I'm going to start with a newly created position last year. And I'll go back again a few years to when the previous fire chief was here, and those of us who were working for him would periodically go into his office and say, "Grant, you need a deputy chief." And Grant would say, "We don't need a deputy chief. We have great battalion chiefs." And we would continue to work and try and make things happen, and we would go back and say, "Grant, you need a deputy chief." And he resisted to the day that he retired, and I'll be honest, I picked up that mantra as a new fire chief, and the people working for me said, "Tom, you need a deputy chief." And I would say, "We don't need a deputy chief. We have great battalion chiefs." And I finally was convinced, and I asked for the position, and with deep appreciation, city leadership granted funding for that. And we went through a nationwide search, and the top 3 candidates, really 4 candidates, were all city employees. We had to go through a couple of rounds and a bit of a roller coaster ride getting there. But the thing that I want to celebrate, in addition to finally having that position filled and active in this organization, is that we had 4 candidates in the city who would have been phenomenal deputy chiefs. And to have that level and depth of leadership in our organization and the city at large is breathtaking, particularly given that they were stacking up against candidates from a nationwide search. Those decisions are never easy, and in this case, I would say that the choice maybe was obvious, but still not easy to land on saying yes to one and not this time to 3 others. But at the end of the day, I was able to offer to Randy Ost and have him accept the position of deputy chief. So I'd like to have Randy come up with I assume your family, to do the pinning. Randy came to days in late 19 for some overlap and became the administrative battalion chief. And I immediately went to burying him in work. And one of the talks that he had with me before his promotion to deputy chief is, "We got to do something about the workload. I'm buried. I can't see daylight. I can't, there's too much. We can't keep doing this." So he got promoted, and I'm proud to say that we've continued to bury him, and he can't see up from down. But we're working on that. I bring that up because Randy has been an absolute trooper, and it's one of those positions that you don't even recognize what's missing until you have the person in the role next to you. And the impact that he's already had on this organization is profound, and I cannot wait to see what the next 5 years and 10 years bring for this role and for future roles for Randy. So please join me in congratulating and welcoming Randy to his new role. And one of my first duties for Randy in this setting is to have him introduce and facilitate the company officer promotions from the organization for the years of 20 and 21.
Thank you, Chief. If you were promoted in 20 or 21, could you and your significant other, or those who are going to badge you, come on up, please? So as they're making their way up, I just want to describe a little bit to you all about what the company officer position is at Richland Fire and Emergency Services. The company officer position is truly the backbone of our existence in our organization. The position oversees and manages the daily operations of the crews at all 5 of our stations. But perhaps more importantly than managing the people, this position sets the tone for the organization. It leads the crews in living out the Richland Fire and Emergency Services culture that we've created here. And it's the frontline provider of all the services that we provide, both emergent and non-emergent. This position is the face of the department, and in my opinion, probably the most influential position in our organization. The individuals recognized today have spent countless hours preparing themselves to lead in this capacity and have truly earned this position. So I'll go through the list here. First up is Josh Smith, promoted from firefighter to captain, August of 2020. Noah Bowen, promoted to lieutenant August 2020, and then to captain July 2021. Raul Marroquin, promoted to lieutenant August 2020, then to captain July 2021. Pete Zukowski, promoted to lieutenant August 2020, then to captain July 2021. Chris Roney, promoted from lieutenant to captain, July 2021. John Ottenbright, promoted from lieutenant to captain, October 2021. Ryan Berkheimer, promoted from firefighter to lieutenant, June 2021. Ryan Spencer, promoted from firefighter to lieutenant, June of 2021. Ryan wasn't able to join us today. Jim Stovall, promoted from firefighter to lieutenant, June of 2021. John Walling, promoted from firefighter to lieutenant, September 2021. Chris Denny, promoted from firefighter to lieutenant, October 2021.
Okay, our next category of promotions is chief officers, and we had a number of admin staff promotions this year as well that we want to celebrate. So let's start with Mike Van Beek. Mike was promoted to from captain to EMS and EMS program officer to battalion chief in October of 2021. Randy, if you and Abby want to come back up, I mentioned Randy already in his promotion, but he was among the chief officer promotions from battalion chief to deputy chief in October of 21 as well. And as I mentioned, we had a number of promotions among our admin staff, just tremendous growth and change over the last couple of years. I'd like to start with Shauna Knight. Shauna was promoted from admin assistant 1 to fire logistics technician in February of 21. Shauna, are you here? Yeah, come on up. You got to come up. Yeah, yep. Trish Akhmoudi was promoted from admin assistant 2 to fire analyst in September of 21. And Trish is actually at a community risk profile development class for the fire analyst portion of her job today, so she's not able to join us today. And Megan Maynard. Megan has had a rocket career path with us. She came to us as an admin 1 and was promoted, 4 months later to admin 2, something like that? Yeah, and Megan has just done an amazing job with the learning curve and just has folded right into the team in ways that we could hardly imagine somebody could. So, Megan, congratulations and thank you. To all of you, congratulations in your new roles and thank you. We have a little bit of a unique circumstance. We had one retiree finish his tour with us at the very end of 19. But we were not able to capture him in the badging ceremony in 20, and I think literally the week of our ceremony, the pandemic began. So it was a little bit of a chaotic time, and so we wanted to invite him back, and then the others will have retired in 20 and 21. So I'm going to start down the list and ask Jim Hempstead, Randy Ost, and Mike Van Beek to come up and join me for this section. At the end of the career run, we pulled together the badges representing each of the positions that our folks have held along their journey with us, and we put them into a shadow box for them so they have something to remember their time with us and hopefully point back to some of the good times and less of the hard times in the organization and the time that they spent with us, because there are plenty of really great times and there are plenty of really challenging times. So we'd like to invite first Tracia Nunnally to come up. Yep, I did see Tracia. And Jim Hempstead is going to say a few words about Tracy.
Come on up, Nunya. I give nicknames to a lot of the people that I work with. It's hard to summarize somebody's career in just a few short moments. Tracia worked over 27 and a half years, about 27 and a half years. She responded on tens of thousands of calls to serve our community during that time frame. She drove, she acted as an EMT. I will tell you some of the funnest times I had was watching her drive when somebody didn't want to pull over for her. She becomes quite colorful, and it's an awesome discussion potentially following or during. But in reality, I want to share with you, Tracy, more of your legacy and the value that you brought to our fire department and our family. Tracy was always one, when she comes in, she's laughing and giggling. She creates a very fun, fostered environment, so everybody makes it just a fun, happy day being around her. But that's not your legacy, Tracia. Tracia's legacy, and all you new recruits that were honored today, you can learn something from her. She gave more of herself than anybody I can think of to the fire department as a professional, but she gave more of herself as a co-worker and to our families. Almost everybody in this department during her tenure can stand up and say thank you to her, because more than likely she helped them on and off duty. She did it for me. I know there's several people in the crowd that she stepped up and helped when they needed assistance. She helped the community when somebody was sincerely needed help beyond just the badge. That's your legacy, Tracia. You served a holistic service, not only to our organization from a professional standpoint, but from a passionate friend and coworker, and for that, I thank you.
I have the distinct privilege and honor to recognize a member who spent over 25 years in our organization. Kurt promoted his way up through the ranks to the battalion chief position, adding value to the department at every level. Battalion Chief Kurt Walsh was an active member of the department. He invested in a lot of different fronts, including being a paramedic a majority of his career. He was active on our technical rescue team, both as a team member and then as oversight of the team for many, many years. He developed and implemented emergency operations plans throughout our community, established labor relations, and really built solid relationships throughout our community. But what sticks out to me the most about Kurt is how he invested in those around him. He pushed each of us to give a little more, not to settle for the status quo, and to become engaged in the organization. It's an inside joke. Kurt always had an amazing command presence, regardless of the situation, and he could really bring calm to the most of any kind of chaotic situation. Kurt's commitment to the community is something else that I've always admired. Kurt was the founding father of the Richland Firefighters Community Outreach Program, which has given back hundreds of thousands of dollars to this community over the last 15 years. Additionally, Kurt raised money and participated in the leukemia lymphoma stair climb, even in his later years of his career, which is pretty impressive. It seemed like no matter what the community asked, Kurt was always willing to step up and give whatever was needed. He was truly community driven before it was cool to do it. Kurt, thank you for all you've done for this organization and the community, and thank you for all of the support that you have given me over the years as well. Please help me in congratulating Kurt Walsh for his service from September 7th, 1993 to December 26, 2019.
On a personal note, I'd like to thank Kurt too. In the first couple of years of being a new fire chief are pretty chaotic for the new fire chief as well as those around him. And Kurt was one of my rocks. I could not have gotten through that time without the steady leadership that Kurt was providing from his role as a battalion chief, and the steady hand and consistent good advice that I got from him. So Kurt, thank you. Our next person that we'd like to celebrate, did Corey Henson make it today? Was he able to get here? No, okay. He was hoping to get here, but had some conflicts that he wasn't sure he could work around. Corey retired a little bit earlier based on some family dynamics than he was really hoping to, but he finished strong. And Corey is another one we can look back over a long and productive career. You could always count on Corey to find the bright side of the situation, to have a hilarious story to illustrate the lesson at hand, and to really invest in the development of his crew and really the well-being of his crew. He was a long-time firefighter and tested for promotion for many years. And when he got that badge, he took it seriously and he invested in that role. And again, I think all of us can attest to the fact that he finished strong and was an amazing company officer for this organization. So although he can't be here today, we would like to recognize Corey for his long contribution to the organization and the various roles that he played in that. And many of us who worked with Corey over the years can also thank Corey for the investment that he made in helping us, develop character in our kids through opportunities to hunt family property and get our kids outside with him. And that was most definitely a passion of his, and a distinct way in which he helped many of us be better people overall, and not just specifically in our role as fire department employees. So please help me in join me in oh geez Louise, I'm running out of caffeine here. Help me in congratulating Corey Henson, and we'll convey to him and get his shadow box to him our appreciation for those many years of great service to our community.
All right, I get the distinct responsibility to recognize Keith Ramsey. So Keith, could you come up here for us? Good to see you, Keith. Firefighter Keith Ramsey. Keith was hired May 29th, 1990, and retired June 30, 2021. Throughout your career, you demonstrated a true desire to help members of our community. Your passion and unique delivery of public education programs touched tens of thousands of citizens throughout the Tri-Cities. Your desire to enhance the safety of our citizens is evident through your career accomplishments. This includes 911 response as an emergency medical technician and firefighter, becoming the first car seat safety technician in our region in a partnership with the health district to reduce child injuries during motor vehicle accidents, public safety magic shows, and school fire prevention programs. You also emceed several city programs and community events and developed a respected national network with fire service public educators. One of the greatest contributions is your legacy of modeling the way for our organization to engage with the community and becoming industry leaders in community risk reduction. Your efforts in public education created a strong community awareness, which enhanced our department's value to our community. And I'm going to steal a line from Randy, and Keith was community risk reduction before community risk reduction was cool, and I thank you for that. On a more personal note, I had the privilege to work with Keith for a number of years. When I was promoted to captain, my first station assignment was at Station 7-3 with Keith, and I remember being a little bit nervous, and I thought, what's it going to be like to manage someone who started their career at Richland when I was in the 3rd grade? Little did I know how fortunate I would be. As a new captain, I had no idea how valuable a senior firefighter was. Keith made my job as a captain so much easier because of the knowledge and experience he had. I was also grateful for the mentorship that Keith provided to me, which helped shape me as a fire officer and helped shape me personally. So thank you, Keith, and congratulations on 31 years of service with the City of Richland.
It is my distinct pleasure to welcome or celebrate our final retiree for this time period, and that is Ryan Nielsen. Ryan, if you want to head this way. There are so many things that can be said about Ryan, and I'm gonna grab just a few things for some highlights. Ryan served 31 years with the organization, starting in 1991. Do I have that right? 1990. Completed his paramedic in 1993. Ryan was among the first people in the organization as we tried to make cultural shift to improve our education and training level to get his bachelor's degree completed. He was a pioneer actually in those of us trying to get that momentum established in the organization. He also invested heavily and actually led from a grassroots level a lot of the effort to get position requirements in place. Believe it or not, back in the early days of the organization, you could really kind of show up with a warm pulse and be able to move around and test for these officer positions that are so critical. And Ryan invested very heavily with a team to establish some basic requirements for those things to be able to test. And that foundation that he helped establish, we have continued to build upon some 20 years later. And that, again, culturally has helped shape this organization, and I think has really contributed to who we are collectively and the mission that we serve in the community. Ryan has been was active on the technical rescue team for many years, served in the role of lieutenant, and ultimately was promoted to captain in 2013. It can be said, like many of our company officers, Ryan invested very heavily in the development of his crew, making sure that people were healthy and getting the support, coaching, and mentoring that they needed to progress their own careers. And his attention to detail on the craft, some could say is becoming a lost art, but as I look at our workforce, I'm more and more confident that we're gonna protect that and continue to invest in our craft. And again, Ryan modeled that behavior from a very, very early time. Ryan has also been an active participant in the stair climb team, raising collectively well into the six figures, I think, over the years from Richland Fire alone to support leukemia and lymphoma research and patient support. And on a personal note, Ryan finished his tenure in his second stint in the union leadership primary officer role. And although on the beginning days of that tenure, our styles were a little not perfectly aligned, I will say that it was a distinct pleasure to have that working relationship with you, and I feel like we ended on a very, very positive note and continued to have a very collaborative and open relationship in terms of that. Make no mistake, you never have to wonder what Ryan's position is. And I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I also say that to remind everybody that there's tremendous value in saying what you mean and meaning what you say and being consistent to that. And that whether we always agreed on the topic at hand, that speaks to a level of integrity that is, again, a great model for all of us, Ryan. So for all of those things, for your contribution, for a great career, and for the many roles that you've played, for your investment in your crews and our people, thank you, and congratulations on your retirement. These folks that are standing before you here represent the current generation of people who have completed their careers here and have gone on to the next chapter, whatever that might be, and that'll be a little different for everybody. But you've heard, all of you, and I'm speaking to those of you in the department now, you've heard the contributions that they made in their generation. And I bet if you ask any one of these folks who have retired in the last 2 years how quickly those 25 to 31 years went, they will tell you it will make your head spin how quickly your career is going to go by. My challenge to all of you, regardless of whether you're in your first year, your second year, or your 15th year, is this is your organization. It is your organization to own, to invest in, to grow, and to help chart the path forward, because in a literal blink of an eye, it will be some of you standing here making this presentation. It will be some of you standing here celebrating your retirement. It will be some of you standing here celebrating your promotion. It happens so quickly. So don't let those days and those years go by without being intentional about grabbing hold of them and making the most of them and celebrating them. That's part of why we come together today, and I offer to you, those of you who are sitting in your 2021 hire, you're looking at 31 years going, wow, that's a long ways out. I'm here to tell you it's so fast. It will go so fast. So enjoy the ride. Make this organization your own. Continue to help us grow in that mission of serving our community and the creative ways in which we can do that. And we'll continue to come together and celebrate. I'll close simply by saying we celebrated some highlights, and there's clearly things that we had to celebrate that we didn't get on the agenda today, and we don't take those for granted. We'll have more to celebrate next year. I think we're all excited to be coming out hopefully the end of the pandemic, or at least the worst of it. And so as much as we've accomplished and as great as we've done and as many amazing people as we have in the organization, I will leave you with the thought that we're just getting started. With that, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for your support of our folks, and thank you for all of you who contribute to the health and well-being and quality of life of this community. And we'll see you all at next year's event.